find myself thinking about religion and God a lot. Not necessarily because I'm particularly spiritual or religious. Truth be told, I don't know if I believe in God. And as I say that, it's funny. I say this to my brother all the time. Maybe it's the people pleaser side in me still, or just I'm hedging. But even when I'm talking to myself and I'm trying to be honest, I'm afraid to say I don't think God is real. And it's not that I'm conclusive on that, but even saying it feels like, well, that's like I should hedge more. Like I should believe he is real, it's just in case, right? Which, as you play it out, seems so silly and illogical. Because either you believe or you don't, right? It's not going to be that superficial that if I just make pretend I do, there's going to be some benefit to it. Or if that is the case, then it's probably not all that meaningful anyway. But I think about it a lot because I don't know. But maybe as importantly as the fact that I don't know, and it's a big mystery and all those things, is the function I think religion and God or God serve for us. I've talked a lot about perhaps like the greatest thing we can do as humans is to do the thing that makes no sense, where the math doesn't check out, right? The action where everything tells us we shouldn't do that. Furthermore, we have no reason to do that. We actually are completely justified and incentivized to do the opposite, right? You think about it a lot in terms of power dynamics. If I'm a white man, right? There's a lot of power dynamics I hold. There's a lot that is in the math that incentivizes me to retain and exploit that power and that power dynamic. Even if I'm not evil, even if I'm not, a pure racist KKK member or a misogynist or whatever it might be, in subtle ways, I'm incentivized to take advantage of those power dynamics. And that's just the math of it, right? And that seems to be, human nature. As I say, we have this pleasure discomfort meter that we're constantly monitoring. It reduces discomfort and increases pleasure, certainly in the short term, to take advantage of those power dynamics, and likely even in the long term, right? Unless there's some other reason, unless there's something else to bring to the equation that changes that. And short of or in lieu of God or religion, it's got to be some belief, if you're just working on the math, that doing the right thing, quote unquote, doing kind of the George Washington thing I often reference, right? Somebody who gave up power willingly when he didn't have to, had no reason to, was incentivized to keep it. Doing that thing is better off. That's going to bring you more net pleasure. It's going to be net positive at the end of the day. And I believe, or I want to believe that's true, but I think the challenge everyday people have, myself included, is that day to day that math just does not check out. It's a bet. We're placing a bet that at some point we're going to reap the reward of this, the benefit, and maybe not us even, maybe our children or our grandchildren. And again, all that in theory, from like a moral virtue perspective, seems right. But day-to-day interaction, when you're dealing with your subconscious that's constantly trying to minimize discomfort, that's just a big bet to place that a lot of us can't. And I think that's where God comes in and religion comes in, to the extent of it is it gives that reason. It fills that gap. It brings something into the equation that says, okay, now the math checks out. Now when I look at it, and there's no reason for me to donate more money or to help people that, I don't need to help, or do the virtuous quote unquote thing, but now I have a reason, right? There's this being in the sky who's telling me it's the right thing to do, this all-powerful being who's going to judge me at the end of my life. And that's why I'm doing it, right? That's the reason. That makes it very clean, and we know we like clean, we like cohesive. So as ambiguous, as uncertain, as mysterious as religion is and spirituality is, it's a clean reason to do the right thing. And maybe that's the point, right? Maybe even someone like me who, when I get down to the base level of it, can't really fully explain why I feel somewhat, I think, driven to try and do the quote-unquote right thing, to try and do the thing that I'm not incentivized to do, to try and make some sort of a sacrifice. Maybe at the end of the day, that's what believing in God is just believing in that there's a reason to do that. Forget all the other stuff, right? Forget all the books, forget all the ways it's been perverted and tarnished and manipulated and used for all sorts of horrible things, right? Put all that aside. Maybe that's all it is. It's just that deep-rooted sentiment and feeling that of, hey, even though the math doesn't seem to check out, I know this is the right thing to do. I don't know. It could be. Or maybe it's just man's way of developing some sort of system to get people to try and act and do better for each other. It's impossible to say, but I think the intent of it, ironically, interestingly, whatever you want to call it, so much of what I talk about is mathematical, it's logical, it's rational. You got to see it, you got to see the math behind it, you got to understand it, does it check out? So much of that would seem counter to religion and believing in God. But when you really get down to the base level, it's kind of the same. It's working towards the same outcome in different ways, given, but it's working towards that same outcome. How can we find a reason to try and do the better thing, to try and help other people, right? How can we try and find a way on a day-to-day basis when we're running that calculation of, what do we do? What's the cost benefit? Bringing in that huge benefit, that huge reason to say, that's why I'll go do the right thing. That's why I'll help other people.